All right, I bought this Kapex about 7 or 8 years ago. I'm thinking it was 7 years, but it may be 8. Bought it brand new. Came as a deal. You bought the big vacuum and the saw. It was like $1,700, maybe maybe a little less. So long ago. You can see it's been used. I've been using it, and that blade's been sharpened more times than I can count. It's fallen out of the back of my truck. It's been rained on. It's been abused by plumbers. It's cut metal. I actually cut a whole house worth of curtain rods without me knowing it. And it's good. It's great. You could go through 3 saws in that time. Admittedly, I have other chop saws that I use. Like I have a DeWalt 12-inch that I'll use for, hacking away at pressure treated lumber, stuff like that. But I use this a lot, and I don't baby it. I've run 4x10 through there. I've framed a whole house, just like set it up for one of the guys and chop 600 studs. And it's got the power, it's fine, it can do that. One thing is that this saw has no play in it whatsoever. I mean, it does not move. After all these years, it slides like the day I bought it. And there is no wiggle in that handle at all. And when I go and buy a chop saw, first thing I do is I grab the handle and try to, flex the saw. And if it's like a Ryobi piece of shit, you can bend it a 1/4 inch out of square just with your hands. This saw does not bend. This is the stiffest saw, period. The handle's in line with the blade, so when you push down on the handle, it doesn't torque the blade out of square like the DeWalt does. The DeWalt, you have to physically compensate for the twist of the tool. You get used to it, and it can be it has its advantages too. Like, you want to put a little micro back bevel on some trim, you can twist the saw. This saw will not do this. It's perfectly accurate every single time. And what's curious about that is that the blade itself is like made out of rubber. I don't know if you can see, but you can bend the blade really, really easily, and it baffles me as to how accurate this saw is with a blade like that. It's a great blade. There's no tear out. I can't remember which one this is. They make a couple different blades. You can see, I use the heck out of it, cutting plastic. The miter function on the back, easy to get to. You don't have to try to figure out which way the thread is in the back to tighten up the miter. It's just, you just pull this. And you can do it with one finger and it unlocks. You come around here and you turn this knob and it miters. Watch. See this? See the gauge back there? If I carefully turn this, I can get a 1/4 degree over and over again. If some schmuck comes along and moves me out of my setting, we're a couple guys working in here and somebody sets it back to 0 and I had it on 5.5, I can go right back to 5.5, that easy. And I'm looking through a phone. It just takes a half a second. You can get to go back to totally repeatable cuts over and over and over again. It's fantastic. It's big. You can read it from far away. You don't have to put your eye on some like die cast bullshit back here with a needle that's a 1/4 inch wide. Box, and it will not move. You don't have to use the handle. You can wrestle it over like a normal saw. The table is overly stiff, and I thought it would break in. Like it takes a lot of effort to move the table, and I think that has something to do with the accuracy, but it has from day one been kind of a pain in the ass, and it's something you got to get used to. If your saw isn't screwed down or on a stand and you go to move this, sometimes you'll just slide the whole saw around the table. That is annoying. I wish that I actually put some dry lube. It's got like a brass bearing in there or bushing in there, and it like helped it a little, but it's just something you're gonna have to live with if you buy a saw like this. this. This is a angle gauge, like Festool's take on an angle haver. You know, you look it up. It's super useful. It works well. It's durable as hell. You know, carry it around in your tool bag while you're doing interior trim or baseboard or cutting whatever. It's great. It's a good tool. Lots of other companies make them. Festool's just, it comes with this saw and it works with the lasers. Oh, that's another thing. The lasers are good. They're really, really fine. But they're so fine that you can't see them outside in the sunlight. You can see them. It's not like a big solid beam like you have on, you know, American, not American, but sold to American chop saws. It's very fine. I set it up once. I've never touched it again. I've never been knocked out of whack. Up under here, there's a clear lens that gets covered in sawdust eventually. You have to clean it. You know, I don't know, once a year. Maybe I've cleaned it a couple times. But that is right on the blade. The camera's making it look thicker than it really is. See, it is extremely fine. And you can get right on your cut every time, either direction. You know, sometimes you gotta, if you're not super good, you gotta flip the lumber over because the beam's only on one side of your saw. Well, this one has it on both sides. It works good. It shuts off automatically after like 20 minutes, and it kills me that it does that because I come back and I have to turn it on again. I wish it would just stay on. There's no function for that. There's just a momentary switch on the top. Saw's variable speed. I don't know why the hell you want a variable speed chop saw, but I just run it full blast all the time because you do. Blade changes are super easy. You turn that knob, it locks the arbor, and there's a tool hidden in the back of the saw to take the blade off. I've broken 2 guards. You notice there's no guard on this saw. It happens a lot with other saws too. You get a piece of lumber stuck in there, and then like at 6,000 miles an hour, it just rips the guard off, and it's more dangerous than anything else because the guard comes out of there with a lot of power. The second one did anyway. The first one just got all busted up inside of there, and there's a spring, and it sucked. Take it apart, pull the guard off. I normally wouldn't have put it back on, but I had to. They made me, and it got busted too. Has a bunch of other functions. It has like a deep cut function for doing tall crown molding. I do crown molding, but I don't do oversized crown molding all that often, and I've used it once or twice, but it kind of locks the slide and then gives you another, I don't know, inch or 2 of depth of cut, so you can get some big ass lumber in there. Capacity, it's about the same as a 10-inch saw. It's got this big deep well in the back of it, so you can cut a couple of 2x6s stacked up on edge. It's got good capacity. It works well. This little rubber job that helps with the dust extractor can come off, and you can get even bigger stuff in there. So it's got the capacity of a 12-inch-ish, a little less. It's just a well-designed. I don't know how many millimeters it is. It's not 10 inches. It's not 12. It's a weird German shit. Dust extraction works awesome. There's a guy on the site that's allergic to red cedar. So I taped a little piece of cardboard around the back here, and I've been cutting, I mean, look, I've been cutting it's lunchtime now, and that's how much, this place would be covered in dust. That's what gets out. The super fine stuff that goes up your nose and burns your eyes, all gets pulled into the vacuum cleaner. You just get this like specific size. You know, this is like pretty thick stuff. It's not that fine fly around the air stuff. Other lumber works better. Some lumber doesn't work as well. Like wet lumber will just kind of ball up on the blade and end up in a pile here. But it way better than any other chop saw dust extraction. It's actually a dust extractor. It really pulls the dust out instead of like some bullshit tube with a bag hanging off the ass end of it that just breaks off the first day anyway. Like most Festool tools, it has a skinny handle, like a thin grip. See that? I don't have huge hands, I have regular size hands, and it has a regular size grip. Like you go to stuff marketed to Americans, and they got this big fucking honker. You can't get your hand around it. You wear gloves, and you're like this. You can't get your hand around the tool. And a super crazy stiff trigger. It's like, you want to like look like a man while you're cutting stuff and be miserable, or you want to have something that actually fits you. It's great. Really light trigger, safety on top. Every Festool tool has a safety. Get used to it. It sucks, I know. Press the button down to do it. And you could override it, but it works. It works well. Very comfortable. All their tools are like that. All their tools have this nice skinny handle. Wintertime, summertime. No over-molded bullshit. You know, like on the new tools, they had this soft rubber crap that peels off. I hate that. Why do you do that? Like, it just gets in the way, costs money. It looks awesome, but like, who are you trying to impress? Good saw. What else? I think that's about it. If you got the money, it's ridiculous. $1,500 for a chop saw is ridiculous. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want it. It lasts forever. It just keeps going and going. It's got tons of nuts. It works really well for what it is. If you're like a production framer, if you're doing like something that isn't require the precision that this thing has, don't buy it. It wouldn't be worth it for you. But if you're doing carpentry, interior trim, furniture, stuff like that, it's unbelievably accurate. It cuts perfect miters. It cuts perfect lines with no tear out. Zero tear out. And tear out is just waste and another extra step you got to do to sand it off or whatever. I hope this is helpful.